Monday, March 30th, 10:38 a.m. What a do, checking and tapping in from Columbus. It's 10 Toes, your favorite market analyst. And so we have weathered the weekend, taking you through some of the sentiment progression over not even the long weekend, just a normal weekend. Some comments on the trade situation and some talking points. Continuing on with our trade log. So, currently on your screen is SanDisk. We have some continued downward pressure. I would say it's about, if we look at the S&P 500, again, about the same where we close. I was expecting, we'll get there here in a second. Dow Jones, about the same. And so we'll look specifically at CF because this is our fertilizer processing, getting some residual benefit from the oil prices being high. If you follow the markets, clearly the war is causing the oil prices to rise. We're kind of talking, when is this resolution? Is there a resolution? What does that even look like? Hopefully I'm talking into the microphone correctly. I think I got it worked out. But over the weekend, you can see kind of here into Friday, we opened this position at 132 on Thursday. And so, again, not super thrilled on the entry, but again, I'm always reacting to the sentiment. And so by the fact that I've taken the position, I think it's a good time to. And so, because as you can tell, I sit here pretty much all day. But regardless, I did add one share at the 140, and so entry price not super great, but I do see the overall strength of this appreciation. Just even, again, I've told you my overall perspective of like where we're at currently in the previous videos, but I just don't see the appreciation super strong. It's more ancillary benefit. But again, the overall question here for me is, I don't know the oil pipeline, supply chain, all of that well or at all. I would effectively say, I've seen this stuff come up as somebody who trades. You see stuff from the market, but I would say I know nothing about the oil industry or oil supply chain to trade. And so, I don't know if this is a thing where the overall appreciation just on the price action, it's 100%-ish. If we're looking at, 75 as its low, so to 150, we'll just call it 100%. But really, I think from the war progression, this is the fifth week. And so they also had an earnings call. So like I said, I know nothing about the company, but I just don't see this as like strong appreciation. In comparison to something like SanDisk, where it has I still think it's dramatically overblown, but there's like a real company. This is just like, again, company, war going on. Where do we put our money? This thing kind of appreciates. And then the fundamental question for me is like, this is more of kind of like a test of, I kind of want to say demand elasticity, but I even want to say more like to the supply chain. I just don't know, because they're talking about this supply energy shock not really being here yet, and that's just something I have no idea, right? This armed conflict, this what they call the closing of the Strait of Hormuz, or just the disruption to the oil supply chain. As again, I don't know if it was normal before, right? Before this war, if it 5 years ago in comparison to now, or like what the overall geopolitical assessment of, hey, this is completely safe, hey, this is easy, hey, there's a lot of room for improvement. Truly nothing. So definitely from new war, worse than what it was. Didn't know what it was before. But I just see overall wars just when people are running around shooting each other and killing each other, people aren't making money. So overall, to me, that's a net bad thing. I don't think that would be really that debatable. But it's, again, is the disruption, does it constrict the supply enough in a meaningful way to cause these appreciations where you don't see a depreciation? I don't think so. Again, this is not a growth company. This is not fertilizer. Again, another industry I don't know in general. So we're really kind of over here. But point being is I see war, armed conflict as overall just totally bad for economic activity. But again, if it just restricts the supply enough to where people, are you sending 100 barrels of oil over to CF right now to be processed, and this war is going to cause you to pay a higher price to process those 100 barrels? Or is this war conflict going to not have any barrels at all, or go down to 50 barrels? And so that's kind of my thing, where it's like, even these things that are seeing appreciation, if you're not trading oil itself, it's like if you just have less business, right? It's going to be less for your revenue. It's all going to be reflected as, economic depression, and I put that in quotations, meaning depreciation, but just not sustained growth. And so again, that's kind of what's going on over here. Again, I don't see the price movements as very pronounced. Not super thrilled with my entry. Again, what I see is catastrophe over here is $100 a share the wrong way. So we wake up as in at 200, or I'd say, because again, we're still overall $100 a share, but more specifically, you're getting into these like orders of magnitudes, like I don't even say order of magnitude, but just like doubling. Again, if you go from 75 to 150, which we're getting close there, to me, another not a catastrophic, but like the same type of move or the same momentum sentiment increase would be another 100%. So going up to like 260, 270. So that would be, looking at a depreciation of about 2,000 in the account. Obviously, we're not looking for that, but again, that's like catastrophe situation. And I don't see that as very likely at all. But again, anytime I enter position specifically short, it's always like, okay, what is the absolute worst that can happen? And so truly the worst that can happen for a short is, again, you get like meme stocked or whatever. But even with that, like I said, we've talked about what I see is like truly like reasonable bounds, even amongst the most unreasonable price action. And so, do with that what you will, but I do think you can kind of gauge, again, what is just blowout sentiment in and of itself. Regardless, not super thrilled with the entry price, but when we see, again, even some like preliminary talks, because this is why I re-looked at this over here. We shorted it up into this candle, got, made the like $40, I think, went up to, we were up at one point like 75, $100, made like $40. So now down about 70 total with our current position. But just again, this candle right here is, a random Trump tweet again. And so it's just like, this move does not seem sustained at all. It seems like a good tracker, something to trade. But again, to me, it's this overall question of what I don't know, the supply chain of what this company actually does specifically, but just, is this conflict causing supply restriction where certain companies are going to benefit, or is it just going to cause a bunch of people shooting each other and we don't have things to process, fertilizer to sell, whatever these ancillary products, byproduct type of companies produce? And so that's what, again, I just don't know, talking you through what would be relevant to managing this trade. But again, we're at a very small position size, enough to make some money, lose some money. But again, by entering the trade, I think we're going to make some money, and the movements is just not strong. And so getting to, that was kind of like the most focus on the actual trading. The other things that we've talked about and followed, I'm pretty much at the full size that I want to, because now that we've added a little bit, again, it's like, I do see, so the only thing I kind of mentioned it is I didn't see, like, I'm not really trying to make money on the short-term depreciation of continued conflict. Because again, like a month, 2 month is kind of what but then we have 50,000 troops, right? So it's like, that was kind of the big sentiment progression throughout the weekend, which we alluded to when I started talking, was, why would you move 50,000 troops over here if you're not going to do something with them? And so then we get this Trump tweet. I mean, you've all seen it if you're following this video whatsoever. And so again, there's just no clear objective. Like, he's close to bragging. It's like, we could destroy everything, and it's like, you can just pull it up. Again, I'm not going to go find it. I'm not on Twitter, and I'm not on Truth Social. But it's just something, again, not even the objective as a military operator. It's like, okay, we're going to just, currently what I've seen so far is, we've said there was going to be an imminent threat. Is the Iranian regime genuinely doing terroristic things? Yes. What does an imminent threat qualify for? Why wouldn't there be, again, if it's to specifically, again, this armed nuclear war? There's no directive. I'm not going to sit here and try to act like there is. But point being is, you can see it in Trump's tweet or his Truth Social post, where he's talking about, it's like flirting with the idea of, let's just destroy a bunch of infrastructure. Let's just fuck up, an oil pipeline, and it's just going to affect Iran or the Middle East or something. I mean, there's just like, you say your objective is to do better for the American people, and you do all of this shit that makes no sense anywhere ever. I mean, we're at the same point where, again, every constitutional law that's meaningful is directly violated, and nobody cares. No one gives a fuck. It's just all a big shit show. Trying to keep the discussion productive, again, because I don't have the tweet, and I have the part of the tweet that I wanted to respond to more so from a political kind of, or again, a commander-in-chief perspective than a market perspective. But market perspective-wise is, again, he's just, like, talking about this Kharkiv island. Like, what does it mean to take the island? Like, kill all the Iranians on the island and then operate the oil base? Is it... Again, it's just there's no clear articulated as a citizen. Where are we going? And again, I'm not a citizen. I do not have constitutional rights. You guys have destroyed my life. But I just don't see like what was the imminent threat? Was it a nuclear attack? Was it some sort of substantial ongoing terrorist attack? Again, I'm still over here wondering how the Twin Towers fell down with zero air resistance. So you keep hearing that conversation come up a lot, and it's just like, at some point, you guys have to live in the real world. And in the real world, at the upper levels of intelligence, you don't know what the fuck's going on. Nobody does. It's not like you get like, here's a handbook of what's going on. But for this conflict, again, there is no articulated directive in that the little, this vague, there's a threat against the American people. And then I guess we'll just get to the thing. He says, this is for retribution for the old regime killing Americans. Which, again, this is the thing where, okay, if you're the commander-in-chief, if you're the local gang leader, if you're the local police chief, if you're whoever, and somebody literally comes up and does you wrong 100%, whatever your situation is, and there's death involved, right? One of your people gets hurt. What do you do then? Oh, again, we're going to go get him. It's absolutely going to be present. It's absolutely going to be justified. In a lot of cases, it's absolutely going to be legal. Certainly, again, I'm trying to encapsulate all of the sentiment of people that want to get back, or, Pete Hegseth tweeting, we're going to go kill all these people just because he's the Department of War doesn't make that statement any different than coming from anybody else. And people just have to call it is, what it is, which is, again, if you're talking about, it's fine, but the point being is Pete Hegseth is not in a maturity discipline level to be behaving like this. Because in a military capacity, if you're going to do something, you just do it. But regardless, you get hit. Trump's clearly articulating that this is, again, first it was because of a new imminent threat. Then it was because the narrative shifting quite a bit, and then we just can't follow anything. But for getting violent, again, I'm trying to speak where I can put it on YouTube. Again, like a military operational standpoint, not me, Brad, saying my intentions and shit or anything. Trying to articulate the considerations of what's going on. But do you want to risk more death, right? Okay, Trump's saying that someone's killed Americans throughout, again, what specific death? What specific conflict? What specific person? What specific battalion? What are you talking about? And then, is it worth to endanger more life? Right, because you're definitely going to get this sentiment, oh, this person dies, let's ride or die, let's go get back. In whatever context that presents itself is going to be there. And as an operative, I'm here to say you still have to be okay. If you have all of the right to do that, you're still going to endanger more of your own people getting your get back, sliding on the ops. Again, I'm talking at a military level, not local gangbangers. But if you go and we're going to have a ground invasion, you're going to have more death. So when you say we're going to get retribution, literally I think that was the word I have written down as retribution for the old regime killing Americans. So you're just going to kill random people, Donald? You already blew up a bunch of schoolgirls. I just have another talking point for our language litigation and integration where we get to know our J.D. Vance. I watched him with Benny Johnson. And J.D. Vance is up there, our great vice president, who, again, is hilarious. Again, I'm not even... Like, it's a career position for J.D. Vance, and being the head of a military is the opposite of just like, oh yeah, it's the next to my political progression. But J.D. Vance is talking about his kids and his young kids and how he, his wife, they have, again, I don't know their families whatsoever, but like they have a lot of kids in their combined family, and so it's like, what makes that child different than the one you blew up in Iran? Do you really think 12-year-old schoolgirls are over there like saying Allahu Akbar and trying to join terrorist regimes. No, they're trying not to get raped and killed for getting raped. I mean, it's not like the women in Iran have great fucking lives and great social experience. And those are the ones you killed. There's your Tomahawk missile. Oh, well, we're getting our get back. Oh, bombed a bunch of girls. That's tough, dude. I'm sure all of the dead Americans are really happy you went and killed a bunch of schoolgirls. That makes sense. And then on top of that, now we're back to our military operation. What are we trying to accomplish? Taking Kharkiv Island or whatever it is? And then if we don't get it, in your own tweet, you're saying we're just going to blow everything up. And then we're going to either endanger, again, just to argue your own position, endanger your own soldiers, American citizens. What's the accomplishment? You get the island, and then are we going to ship, is there a bunch of job opportunities? You're going to build a Trump Tower and ship a bunch of Americans? Because again, this is what you see throughout history. I want to conquer XYZ. What does conquering look like practically? We're going to leave all the locals in charge and just say you pay us taxes and do what we say. And then that lasts until there's a rebellion. It's every single time. And so today, right now, what is taking Iran, what does accomplishing your military objectives look like? The Strait of Hormuz is open. Well, it was whatever the closing is now happened because we started shooting the Iranians. And then this imminent threat without Europe would be jumping at the gills if there was, again, nuclear imminentness. And then we just say this vague national security that has been like the military-industrial complex manifestation of all roads to hell are paved with good intentions, directly, immediately. And at this point, there's not even like good intentions. It's just like generic military sentiment. Preserve the American freedom. I'm an American. Here's my Constitution. Where are my rights? All of analysis is proven on the internet. And so the biggest thing I want to say is he specifically used the word retribution, which is when you're going to go slide on the ops, you're going to go get your get back. Again, just trying to encapsulate any sentiment where people say, and again, the dichotomy, right? The law enforcement and law agents, and rightfully so, would say, drive-bys and going gang activity is terrible. But military operations without law is gang activity. It just is. And so that's to the whole world, as you just think, again, we are going to play the game of nation states. That's apparent. There's no reason to try to sing kumbaya and all unify. There's no fucking point. But it's like, you gotta work together to some extent. If it's just purely financial, nobody wants to be poor. Work together. Stop shooting each other. Nobody gets rich when everyone just kills each other. And so, the specific to the word retribution, shipping the 50,000 people, the commander-in-chief, the general American populace respecting this artifice of a government that doesn't respect its constitution, which is the United States. If you said, what is the United States? It is the Constitution. That thing doesn't exist. And so, that's what I have to say there. But I back to the markets, I do expect there to be some sort of ground mobilization. Why would you ship 50,000 people over there if you're not going to accomplish something? What they're trying to accomplish, they don't even know clearly. Because it's not, what are you going to do, take Tehran? I mean, like, what is the... so the overall... So that was like the negative sentiment going through the weekend. And now this morning, in that same tweet, he has had, we've had productive talks, which is this is going back and forth. But then again, it's from both sides. It's not over here I'm saying like Iran's a good regime. It's just, again, what practically do you do to have the net benefit to move things forward? It's not some vague national security statement and then go killing people randomly, even if they're bad guys, because it doesn't accomplish anything practically. And so that's what you're looking at. Back to the markets. Again, all of my content's the same quality. Again, I'm making educational courses for the future. But again, it is what it is. And so, downward pressure for our exposure, we have some through SanDisk. It does seem to be kind of resilient in the overall market conditions where, you're looking at the S&P now at 637 or SPY. But so SanDisk has seemed a little more resilient for my construction. Again, I'm not really trying to play this short term to the downside. All things else, I don't know what a resolution looks like. And so I do see extended inflation, and that's where we're seeing this, do we have a rate hike? Again, obviously, poor people don't have bonds. Ha ha ha. Yeah, right. Hike the rates. But overall, again, the job of the Fed is to me, practically immediately, is to maintain inflation. But inflation to me is predominantly printing money, not even the interest rates. As much as I like the interest rates higher, because poor people, ha ha ha. Again, as I live at my parents' house without constitutional rights, with $25 million of contractually owed money, as I sit here and wait to get extorted by the IRS again. And so it's just like, you can't live a life in this country. Again, this is the constitutional life that you fight for here in America. Here's all of our opportunities. But I'm not really trying to play the downside. I see as the rebound being kind of good. The interest rate conversation. Again, people still don't articulate what data are you looking at. What are you saying? Interest rates going up. Again, theoretically, it makes sense. You have to pay a higher interest rates. Again, you're more diligent about when you're going to take out a loan. Again, the business development to stabilize employment we talked about. Again, those aren't like high quality jobs. But again, no job to me is really that solidified. I mean, you can be C-suite, you can get cut. You can be a high level, get a big pay package and get cut. And so again, as someone with no access to the labor market, people want stability. You need real value to create. You need real innovation or something new to create real value. Money follows the value. Most of the labor market chases the ball of who has the money. And this is all a solvable problem in terms of like everybody raising quality of life. I mean, these are just digits on a screen. People want to have opportunity. People want to have stability, healthcare, be able to buy food, basic shit. And none of that is accomplished by bombing brown guys over there or anywhere, any country. I mean, I'm just living in the United States, being as diligent to criticizing where I come from, where I live. And so that is for the trading. That is for Trump's tweet. I think those are the major talking points. And so linguistically, the introduction of the word shock, specifically to these energy prices, again, the disruption of the supply chain for the oil. When do we see a shock? So then overall, what does a shock qualify as? Again, just something not expected. It was worth pointing out to me linguistically. Again, just a new verbiage coming into the conversation. Energy price shock. And so meaning this, whatever the WTI, whatever the Brent's at, 120 and 110 respectively. The former and the latter respectively. Look at me, I'm smart. But meaning we could get 150 Brent or 150 ICE crude or whatever the right ones are. Again, somebody had a good statistic on there last week of like $10 a share of Brent is like 50 cents at the or at the pump. And so the reason I have the construction, I'm not even trying to play the downside. Do I think Donald Trump and the overall administration is dumb enough just to, again, continue on with no real objective, just tweeting out, hey, we won, we victory? Do I think, again, from the Iranian side or from both sides, like everything's stupid to me. It's like we shouldn't be engaging in terrorist activity. Like we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't go start wars when we should clean up our own backyards. We shouldn't do that. Does it make sense for Iran to keep sacrificing their own people? No. Does it make sense for the United States to sacrifice their own people? No. Is there more of a responsibility from people to clean up their own backyard? Yes, or should be. But not really trying to play the downside. I do think we'll get some if there's continued depreciation. But I think the overall stimulus shock for the markets, what kind of like the last big thing is a ground invasion. So the announcement of that to me would certainly cause more extreme downward pressure. I'm leaning on the side that is going to happen. I think if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, if you load up 50,000 soldiers and send them that way, it's like I don't think we're going on vacation. I heard the desert's a fun place to go. But so I do think that will happen. I'm not trying to play that, again, because once that announcement breaks, it's either going to cause some sort of, again, resolution. I still don't know what that means. But it just war doesn't make sense for any side ever. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. And then Iran just more ideologically entrenched, whereas both they have a developed country and they have, again, more pockets of extremism present, or again, the overall sentiment, mentality, ideology within the country and within the region even. And so I don't know what a resolution looks like, but it just which I do expect there to be, like, again, this ground invasion. That would definitely, again, a pronounced downward movement market wide. But then I think it would be digested rather quickly. And so again, that's why I'm playing no big positions, but Joby and Jemmy, again, those aren't even, I don't really have any positions. I'm not really trading, but taking some to make, Joby, I'm not adding to these. Like I said, these are the position sizes. I like them where they're at right now. If we have another big step down, I will add a little bit to, again, keep averaging down. But trying to make a little bit of money on this, because there will be a snapback once whatever a resolution is reached. It'll be strong if it's some sort of announcement. If it's just, all right, we're going to have some bullshit little ground invasion excursion. And then I see Trump as too old and too wanting to be rah, rah, go us. And again, the entire presidential political approval rating is just money. And once inflation really starts taking hold, and then again, now everyone in the stock market land where it's like, again, oh no, rates are going up, so the stock market's going to go right to the ground. Which is, I just not for that. But again, that might be a phenomenon of pre-E contraction or compression, because, again, you're just trying to take on unneeded growth. Right? If you have real growth, you will have money. There's no sense not to take on money to feed true expansion. But it's just if it's like, hey, NVIDIA, do you want to build another data center? I'll give you, 1% rate instead of 3%. And maybe it's like, like if you have to think about taking on a loan to expand, you shouldn't be expanding. With real growth and real demand explosion, you know what that looks like. And then you see a lot of these companies overbuild anyway. Point being is no real big positions, but trying to play some sort of snapback on the announcement. If there is one, I think from both sides will make most sense. Certainly I see Trump as having a lot more homeland pressure to, resolve things more so. Again, I think the ideological entrenchment of the region of Iran would be stronger to be like, we'll fight this to the death, certainly. So I see as a genuine a drifting or genuine rise in gas prices influencing Trump's decision-making the most, motivating to have some sort of whatever resolution looks like announced. Again, that's my take. I have no idea. Nothing makes any sense. I have no constitutional rights. That's awesome. Those are the things we were fighting for. We just have a bunch of sheep running around trying to do whatever's best for them, and everyone doesn't realize that is literally the missing the forest for the trees, or missing the big picture for the little crumbs. Because nobody makes money when everyone's just shooting each other. And it truly, from like a military operation standpoint, all right, we've been hurt, we've been hit, we're going to ride or die, and then not considering you're just going to cause more death, even if it's just considering your own men or your own women, just speaking in general, normal pronouns. I'm sorry if I misgendered you. Yeah. And so those are the talking points. We did see they were talking about the March Madness, UConn over Duke. Again, in America, nobody really cares. Back to the homeland life, just talking about sports. But that game was kind of fun. Again, I don't have constitutional rights. None of these schools are telling the truth about science. Oh, it's all fun stuff. So that's what I have for right now, and we will check in later. Monday, March 30th, 4:01 p.m. What's up, trading log? Checking in just after the market closed. Just got back from a hike. So, did not watch the afternoon or pretty much any of the market session past when I recorded the first section, which if you're seeing this, you've just seen the first section. And so, we did get a break. Overall, let's see the S&P. Scott Wapner was just announcing the Dow Jones Industrial Average was green, everything else was red, but pretty much I would consider this a flat day. And so, overall, again, there was some hope, but again, didn't see much hope, and then kind of just a light sell-off. Like we said earlier, announcement of a ground invasion to me is like the only pending sentiment that hasn't been like really that we haven't seen a reaction to. And so definitely think there will be a big drawdown if that happens. I think it will happen. I don't really have any real positions. And so just added a little bit to the income funds. If we get a big retracement, I will add a little bit more. Probably try to find something to buy long, but we're doing the Jemmy and Joby for the long. And then SanDisk, and not much to do with our actual trades. Like I said, overall, pretty much a flat day. with the overall sentiment stimulus throughout the market just being this Iran war. And so we did get kind of a sell-off, at least that's what they said on CNBC, of memory. I would agree. I would say this is this pop back up these days above 670, a week and a half ago or whenever it was. I would say from like 540 to the 680 was a single channel from this initial beat earnings, 3 months ago almost at this point, if not more. And so we had a break up out of this channel and then a break to the lower side. So you do feel some momentum shift. I don't really consider this a huge sell-off. They're over there like sell-off, memory sell-off. I'm like, kind of. This does put us into the profit overall. Like I said, we did have one womp on this just because I try to dance around, but just reacting and making a trading log. And so don't steal all of my money. There's just the numbers on here. But we're up $21 altogether on SanDisk. Just, personal mental accounting note, so we are in the profit. But this is something where I expect the whole market to rip when there's any sort of resolution or attempt at a resolution. So I do expect SanDisk to rip along with that. So would add if this went back up, but having all of my other small positions for kind of like this rebound or any attempt at a resolution. And so I'm not going to look to close this in the profit, even if it's small or even if it's a couple $100. Because I want to trade this again until when I see the sentiment of this really break down. And so that's not even close. Again, we would have to, I want to say again, break below this 5. Really this 5, there's a 538 right there. That's the initial jump off of earnings. And then, because we closed right at where is this at? We closed at 527 and opened at 517, but this isn't, we're still in the upper 500s. And so we're not even out of really the recent channel of this extreme appreciation. So sorry, CNBC, I think you're a little premature on saying software is sold off. Jumping over to Micron, our focus is SanDisk. This one has broken down out of its channel. So Micron, I would say, has broken down out of it. Haven't really been looking at this chart, but this is definitely, you visually see it pretty obvious. And so hopefully SanDisk will follow. We'll try to trade this again with that little heavier position size once we get out of this, assuming we do. But again, I think it will. We'll see. It changes day to day. But again, how long the overall stimulus, the war ends, then we're right back to, this thing is up 1,400% in a year. So, I don't know. But that's, again, obviously we have a position short, so we think it's going to go down. Regardless, that's for trading. Nothing really super new. For our quick talking points, Jay Powell's at Harvard. That smart school with mathematics on all of the buildings and physics on all of the buildings. And now it doesn't say rhythm, but guess what rhythm is? It's a form of theme. And so just got a couple more theorems and we're about done with all of science again. So, but Jay Powell's at Harvard. Really, all the smart people are at Harvard. But again, just reiterating, talking about the dual mandate. Again, quality of life is the overall goal of the entirety of the economic system. Inflation is the number one thing that the Federal Reserve, in tandem with the Treasury, can control the most. Interest rates is a moderate influence to tamping down rampant spending. I am not a fan of, because I even pulled it up on their website. Why do the interest rates matter? And just to see if there's even an articulated reason past of what I keep pushing up against. And it's nope. Lower interest rates encourages more people to obtain a mortgage. Oh, the American dream, let's spend money we don't have. That sounds right. Lower interest rates can also encourage businesses to borrow. If you're actually growing, people will want to throw money at you anyway. Invest in expansion. Again, same response. Purchasing new equipment, updating plants, hiring more workers. And so again, it's just if you have real growth, money will be there. This middle ground where it's I'm an operator, I don't really want to expand, but if someone gives me a great deal, I might. That's kind of where it makes sense. And then you make jobs, that kind of makes sense. But are they high quality jobs? Are they going to stay around for a while? Right? If somebody gets a job for 18 months, that's not changing their life in any way, shape, or form. So just to have an employment number doesn't really mean anything to me. Who is employed, who is not employed? Is it somebody that needs a paycheck in the next 2 weeks or in the next month? Or is it somebody that doesn't have to work again for the rest of their life? Or some combination or mix in between? And so that is kind of the dual mandate, maximum employment or minimum inflation. Inflation, again, is you fuck up inflation, you mess up the whole dollar, the U.S. dollar, whatever market you're in, the U.S. dollar or the Brazilian real or whatever the monies are. I can't think of them right now. But that's the thing, and that's a facet of this nation-state game that we're going to be playing for sure indefinitely. And so inflation's the biggest thing, and that predominantly, again, comes from printing money. Interest rates is a moderate consideration. I'm against this, we need to expand, American dream, own a house, blah, blah, blah. People want quality of life. And so definitely would put the controlling inflation over some sort of employment number as being meaningful. But that is what Jay Powell was talking about at Harvard, the smart school, the one with thematics, mathematics, and no one's even ever pointed that out. No one's ever pointed out in physics class that the speed of light has an inverse. No one's pointed out that rhythm is the dominant thing for all of momentum transfer. Classic case. But right there on the title, it said tension between the Fed's two mandates. That is a not resolution. Where there is tension, there is not resolution. We had a couple other things. One other thing with the Iran's in relation to that conflict, war. Iran is a hard line. This is what I've written down. Iran's hard line, we won't give up nukes. And then the hosts and guests talking about, okay, again, I'm trying to figure out what is the military objective. Is it, open back up the Strait of Hormuz that has been closed since the United States has bombed people with Israel? Is that like that? We're trying to fix the thing that kind of you fucked up? Or, this, where we want to, again, how certain can you be? Are we going to send ground troops? Again, are the ground troops, which almost to me is almost certainly going to happen imminently, is that to go secure the oil trade, or is that to go obtain this uranium? Okay, you obtain the uranium, which, again, I have no concept of what that looks like. After you get a bunch of American citizens killed, let's say you get this uranium, how long does it take before someone sells Iran uranium? How certain can you be that you've gotten it all? And it's just all of these things are not articulated in any meaningful sense, even like facts that would be immediately be able to be told to the public. And so this is just such a stupid thing. And so, again, if you take the uranium, how long does it take to re-enrich them if they're sitting there saying, we are never going to give up our development of nuclear weapons? And again, is it a nuclear weapon development program to, hey, immediately we get it, we're definitely going to go bomb the Jews right next door, or America, or whoever? Or is it articulated by the regime, hey, we just want to be on level playing fields with other world powers? Because overall, I'm for denuclearization everywhere. It just, again, it can't articulate anything more than history already has with the mutually assured destruction. And so, but at the same time, absolutely looking at Europe and people that have depleted their military capacity as nonsense. But it's just nuclear weapons are just so effing stupid, man. And so, continued absolute failure of direction and any sort of actual lead by example from our great, wonderful commander-in-chief and the overall administration and the overall sentiment, again, of stupidity. This is well outside of one political party. But that was just one leftover thought, was how certain can you be sure that you get the uranium? Once you get it, how long does it take to re-enrich the uranium? Because I can't imagine, again, wherever there's a market, there is going to be, or wherever there's demand, there's going to be a market. And so if you're a world government and you're Iran, you're like, hey, what other kind of countries have nuclear weapons? Hey, Russia, what's up, brother? Privyet. Как дела? Right? And they just go buy something from North Korea or from Russia or from whoever. It's not like the CIA is not out there fucking selling random shit. I mean, the intelligence agency is such a crock of garbage, man. And then people act like there's some value or there's some moral structure or there's laws matter, and it just doesn't. I mean, it's so overwhelmingly apparent. I mean, look at my life. Look at how many people are poignantly aware of what is going on in my life. And then just the things that are still proven, people are just like, oh, society hasn't changed. There hasn't been a big party. Brad hasn't won the Nobel Prize, so like we're not gonna prescribe cannabis. Like that's gonna change. like Brad isn't asserting truth that is again proven or true outside again this incompleteness theorem. There's things that are true you can't prove, but my intuition is like you can't prove them because the structure isn't there, but they're definitely true. And you guys are just like, oh no, some stigma was around from the 50s and the 30s, and I'm stupid, so nah. Okay, well, if you suppress science, you cause death and suffering. I mean, that's the only outcome you get, and no one cares. So I just keep pointing that out to everybody. But you guys don't respect science. You don't even know what science is. You've never seen a proof before. You guys just circle jerk and compete over nothing. So everybody's winning at nothing. Everybody's winning at losing. Awesome. But we have a showdown: Brad versus Joe Terranova. Joe Terranova was reiterating that CF should continue to move up. He was talking about cornuria. It's like pea from corn. But again, like I said, I don't know. We went over this in the morning. I don't know this that well. I just, again, people don't see that as a fundamental reason to trade something, as a discrepancy of price action and sentiment. But that's the only reason anything moves. Or that's the most predictable trade for sure, 100 million %. I have no bias when I click these buttons. I just want to make money, and I've sat here and said, what is the most predictable move? The thing you want is conviction on up or down, and then you just moderate your position size. And like I said, this is what will differentiate strong, as things will react more sector-specific, stock-specific than just overall herd of bumblebee kids chasing the soccer ball around. One more graduate from Harvard inching out another multiple on the PE to buy Facebook, as opposed to, again, trying to do some even just like spread execution. You just have like a widespread stock where you just have a bunch of orders on the buy and sell, just trying to execute something. It just, again, the market dynamic is what it is, and you try to like figure something out along with it. But Joe Terranova was thinking this is going to go up a little farther or more. Again, I don't know, but I don't. I just, again, for the reasons I've articulated before, nothing new to say. Not super happy with my entry price here. Just if I close these positions, what else am I going to trade? And so, again, the Iran sentiment is dominating everything in the market, and it's just a herd of bumblebees. And so either playing the short-term continued appreciation of things that benefit from this supply restriction, from this conflict, or the more medium-term depreciation of this short-term fluctuation. So I don't know if Joe Terranova is a trader, if he's how long, like what's the time horizon on this trade. But for a trade, again, to the upside, sure. Like I said, I don't even really like my entry price. But I do see this recent appreciation, certainly anything after $100, as a direct reaction to this conflict. Once that dies down, whatever that looks like, this will die down with it. Again, dividend on May 10th, probably, again, historically, I think it's been 50 cents a share. Yeah, and so, again, position size, it's not going to matter. We're not going to take a big position. This is already a decent consideration. I mean, it's $2,000 exposed. And so, those are our position sizes, battling out with Joe T. Don't worry, Joe T., you're going to jail. At least you're not Joe Kernan. Still, I heard him this morning, again, just mumbling some more random Republican talking points. Sarah Eisen, again, mumbling some random Republican talking points. It just adds zero value to the economic discussion. And it just feels like every time it's just like, oh, look at the guy in the blue shirt. Look what he did. Haha, he's a stupid brain, stupid pants. It's like, it doesn't make me mad. It's just you guys are kids, man. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's really nothing to do for the human species besides to acknowledge that all of analysis has been proven on the internet. It's still up there. Just some final reductions. The proof is inevitable, as it's always been. I mean, we're just showing the iteration of all the fucking letters. All right, that's what I have for today. I will see you on the next one.